Nothing like a good old discussion of the multiverse. Roll the intro. What's up, nerds? Welcome to Beyond the Cover, and today we're going to talk about two of the most important teams in the DC Universe's history. So let's just start talking about the Justice Society of America and the Justice League of America. The Justice Society of America first appeared in issue 3 of All-Star Comics in 1940. The team was created by writer, artist, and editor Sheldon Meyer and writer Gardner Fox. The JSA was the first superhero team in the DCU, but it's also debated that it's the first superhero team ever to exist. The original team consisted of the Atom, Sandman Wesley Dodds, the Spectre, the Flash Jay Garrick, Hawkman, Dr. Fate Kent Nielsen, Green Lantern Alan Scott, and Our Man Rex Tyler. A mere 20 years later, in 1960, the Justice League of America would make their first appearance in Brave and the Bold number 28. Gardner Fox and Mike Sekowsky created the JLA because DC wanted a new face of the superhero team, because the JSA was really old at that time and their faces weren't as recognizable as the Silver Age guys. For example, Barry Allen is now more known as the Flash than Jay Garrick was. So they kind of had to come up with a reasoning of how there could be two Flashes existing at the same time, or two Green Lanterns existing at the same exact time. And their reasoning was, well, Alan Scott, Jay Garrick, they're from a different universe. They're not from the main DC universe. And that's how kind of the multiverse kind of came into being. So we take that universe of the Golden Age, which is put now completely different universe, and all those characters totally different than the main ones in the DCU, because even some of the same characters had different backstories, or their backstories changed. So all the main characters from the Golden Age were put in a universe called Earth 2. And I'm going to call the universe with Barry Allen and with all the main comics the main universe, because it's been called Earth 0, Earth 1, Prime Earth. It could be called multiple things. So the Justice League was created because, well, the Justice Society is an older term, and rumors are that Gardner Fox was obsessed with the word league, so that's why he wanted to name it the Justice League of America. Now, for people who are in the Justice League, you can pretty much think of anyone in the DCU right now, and they probably have been, or will be, or currently are in the Justice League. Now, the differences between the Justice Society and the Justice League will kind of vary. The Justice Society worked more for the government kind of deal, like there will be times where they protected Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or they defended the borders of Britain from the Nazis. They would do stuff like that. Like, it wasn't normally these big character arcs in general. It was more like, hey, we have to protect America, we have to defend truth and justice kind of deal. Meanwhile, in the Justice League, you see these more bigger stories of bigger enemies, and the world's always in danger. Because it kind of, the Justice League dropped America, but it was originally the Justice League of America. they sometimes still call it the JLA, but nowadays it's just the Justice League. So the Justice League, you say, is a lot bigger and expanded than the Justice Society. And you can say that the Justice Society was a product of its time because it was during the wartime. And a lot of soldiers would be sent care packages with these comics, so they would want to show kind of more patriotic stuff and defending and beating Nazis and protecting our president, stuff like that. It was more, not necessarily propaganda based, but you could say it that way. So it was always smaller missions protecting just America, or just the thought and idea of peace and justice. But the Justice League now, it's more like there's this invading force that's trying to destroy the universe, or destroy the Earth, and we're destined to protect it. For the big two, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman even. Wonder Woman was a part of the Justice Society for a while, but Batman and Superman were kind of card-carrying members, but they were only really in 2 to 3 issues at max, because they wanted to focus on the lesser-known guys, or the guys who couldn't really carry their own separate comic. That's why the Justice Society kind of formed in the way it did. So when you think about the JSA and the JLA, think Justice Society is Golden Age and Earth 2, and Justice League is modern day main universe. I do feel that the JSA doesn't get a lot of credit where it's due. I think there are a few people who think the JSA is kind of like the Super Friends, where it's cheesy, corny, and just a group of heroes. You could also say the JSA focused a bit too much on just these characters interacting, which is, at the end of the day, what people want to see. I would love to see the Flash and Sandman interact with each other and talk to each other, because it's interesting, because they're two superheroes in pretty much the same universe. This is when DC was slowly starting to form into itself, because there are multiple comics underneath one regime, and it started combining, which is how most comic book companies started to form. That's how Timely, aka Marvel, started to form as well. So it was just these comic book companies starting to combine stuff and see how their characters work together. And just because they were smaller, lesser known characters, or they were more known characters but they didn't have enough oomph to make their own comic, they just made a superhero team, which pretty much changed the face of DC and changed the face of the comic book industry in general, because you never really saw superheroes talking to each other like it was an average day. You never saw that back then. You just saw them in their own individual comics saving the day. And that, I feel, is the importance of like the JSA, the JLA, the Avengers. It's you want to see these characters interact with each other. That's why you read the book. You don't necessarily read it because you want to see them beat somebody. You want to just see them interact and how they talk and how they differ in opinions, which led to last week's top 5 rivalries. Like, you like seeing the clashing of heads sometimes, or you like seeing how they would agree or work together. That's why I wanted to talk about the difference between the JSA and the JLA. I want to shed some light on the JSA, because I think the JSA and the Golden Age comics are really cool. They're cheesy, but they're really fun in that manner. And I want to talk about the JLA because, well, you have to compare it, because they're pretty much the same team, and it all leads down to, if you didn't notice, Gardner Fox was the writer of both, pretty much created both, with help obviously, but you notice he was in both creations, in both forms, and you have to respect someone who can change the face of comic books in just a small way even, which I feel like he did, because he made these teams, and the teams are very important. I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of the JSA or the JLA? Do you prefer one over the other? Would you like to see more JSA comics? I would. I would enjoy reading more about Earth 2 stuff or Golden Age stuff, because I find them to be very interesting. And we always see comics about the modern day or the current run of the DCU. So let me know in the comments, let me know on Twitter, and I'll see you guys on Friday with a very weird talk that I've been thinking about for a while, and hopefully you guys get where I'm coming from with my nerdosophy coming this Friday. But until then, stay nerdy.